Is Project Management 101, where we get into the nuts and bolts of project management at Intuitive with industry expert and project manager extraordinaire, Frank Ryle. Frank is the creator of the 9-step framework that we've adopted at Intuitive. And today we're going to be focusing on step 2 of the framework. Step 2 is stakeholder management. So just to orient you, step 1 is clarify the goal. So if you haven't listened to our sessions on that, I highly recommend you do so. As we mentioned, each step builds on the next one. And so it's really important that we follow the information flow between the steps. So, but today we're going to get right into stakeholders. So to start, Frank, tell us a little bit about the why. Why should we care about stakeholder management for project success?
So if you think about following the flow as you mentioned here, so a good roadmap to the wrong place is going to be useless. It doesn't matter how good your roadmap is if it's to the wrong place. So step one, we've had that conversation. There's no confusion. We may have disagreements. We may need clarification, but at least we know where we're going. And now we have to get, how are we going to get there? And we're going to think of it as a journey. We're going to meet many different types of people, internal people, external people, regulatory, quality, HR, vendors even. And these we call collectively stakeholders. And they can stop and start and delay and hamper the project, or they can help it and make it go faster. So understanding these stakeholders early is one of the reasons we put it at step 2, because it allows us to think about their requirements, their engagement, and their communication as we go forward. So.
Yeah, and at its core, like if you were to boil down stakeholder management to like the kind of the core elements, what would you say they are?
Well, the core elements of stakeholders really is, it's not their height or their weight or anything like that. It's really their, not even their personality, to be honest. It's the role they play and their power that they have. But we're going to look at 3 particular areas. One is the requirements they have. They may be personal requirements, business requirements, technical requirements, regulatory requirements, right? The second thing would be their engagement throughout the project. So if they're not engaged, if you feel like they're pushing against you rather than helping you, you need to manage that engagement. And the third one will be communications needs, because what you don't want is people having to catch up quickly when you need them to make a decision. So keeping the communication flow, information management might be a better word, so that people are ready to make decisions, corrective action as we need on the journey. And so yes, those 3 things, requirements, engagement, and communication will be the 3 main areas.
Yeah, and that's great because you're already kind of hinting at step 3, which we're not going to get into too much detail here, but step 3 is all about project requirements, and those are derived from your stakeholders. So doing a good job here, again, sets us up for the flow for the next step to be successful, to understand our requirements.
Right.
And so when it comes to stakeholder management, where do we start? What's sort of the first place we should start?
Well, I think identifying is one of the things that you can recognize almost with blinkers on. I know who's in front of me, the core team, my sponsor, other people that I can see, and my designers, my engineers, my operating people. But then as you start to open the blinkers a bit wider, you realize, oh my God, there's vendors and there's other people involved. And so I think that's going to be
who they are and how to get them involved. So as we think about identification is where we're starting. What are some of the questions we should be asking to figure out who is a stakeholder?
Oh, good question. Yeah. So actually, that's a good question. Actually, some people say, is everybody a stakeholder? You say, well, to be honest, a lot of people will be that. But the 3 questions we ask are they interested in what's happening? If you went to them and said, I want to, would they ever call you up? Would they ever email you? Would they ever come to your meetings? Are they interested? Are they impacted by it? Now, they might not be as interested, but they're certainly, we're going to be building a factory near their town, or we're going to be building it, or they're going to lose their job, or they're going to need retraining, and they're going to be impacted by it somehow. They won't be operating the same way. And the third one is quite an interesting one for us. It's have they influence? Now, influence and power, similar kind of words, but the idea that they all begin with I, and we joke, keep an eye on these people. So interested in it, impacted by it, or have an influence on it are all stakeholders.
Yeah, it's great because I think it's easy as a project manager, and I've made this mistake before too. It's like, oh, my stakeholders are the people who are making noise, right? They're the people who project who want to come to my meetings, who want to know the status update. But there are lots of people who may not be, either because of their personality or because they don't know what's going on. Like they're not pulling that information, but we still need to be pushing information to them because they're impacted or because they're influenced. And we'll get more into power and influence shortly. Right. This is a great segue into the next part. So let's say we've done our identification. We have a sense of who the pool of people could be. Now we have to analyze those stakeholders. So walk us through what are the core elements of analyzing stakeholders?
Well, so this is an interesting one because if you think about a small project, you might only have 10 or 12 stakeholders. But as you get up into medium and large projects, you could get to 100. I've seen it, many times where we get to 100, and your brain just cannot cope with that. So we need some fairly powerful analytical techniques. And the one we use mostly is to balance their power and their concern. And we would say if somebody has high power, higher than others, and high concern, higher than others, meaning they're very concerned about the outcome of the project, they would be what's called a key stakeholder. And so to be able to do that, we have a quadrant, a poster. You'll see it: high and low power, high and low concern. So high would be key players, key stakeholders. And then, of course, you have the other quadrants to fit in as well. So yes, we look at power and concern.
Yeah, so let's talk about power a little bit because I think when you say power, everyone kind of has an idea of what power means that comes into their mind, and there's some natural bias of that we have of like what do I think is power may not be what you consider power, and so as we think about power, what are the kind of the types of power that we should be considering when we're doing this exercise?
Types of power, interesting. They use the word source of power. Source, like what's the source of your power? And people say, how does that person who's not big and strong feel so powerful because they have a bodyguard or they have a gun or something like that, or they have a lot of money or whatever, their dad is rich, or but they have a source. And so we talk about a source being four main ones. Reward, they can reward me with something. And so I will work late, I will work the weekends, I will give up my first child, and because they will reward me with something that I want now. The reward will be for me personally, right? The second one is interesting, is the opposite of that, is penalty. They have power because they have the ability to stop me or penalize me in some way, a policeman, a judge, whatever. So, I'll stand up in the court, I'll do everything because it's the penalty power. It's called so reward power, penalty power. Now, two interesting ones that are kind of maybe not so well known, but you would be aware of them are knowledge power. We call it expertise. So I know something you don't know. I'm an electrician. I know something you don't know. I'm a heart surgeon. I'm a mechanic. I know something, and you will do whatever I ask you because you trust me because I have this power, and you trust this person to do that. And the last one that we want you to consider is called referent power. It's by association with somebody else who has power, and it's often termed name dropping or copying somebody on an email, where you think, why is that person doing that? And you realize, it's because they have power. And we see power as the sword that was in the symbol in the first one, the sword and the shield. So the sponsor has a big sword, but there are people who will have even bigger swords, regulatory bodies, perhaps fire officers and people like that. And so recognizing power is raw, power is real, and it can be sourced from reward, penalty, expertise, and referent. They're the sources of power.
Yeah, I like that because it doesn't specify. It's not power is not necessary positional, right? Like there's some correlation between like position and title and power, but at the end of the day, title is not necessarily a source of power in itself. It's does that person with that title, because that title maybe they have penalty power, like hey, they have the power to take your resources away because they manage that team, or reward power. If they have the power to recommend your bonus for the year, maybe it's because of their position, but at the end of the day, what is the power they have? And expertise power, I think, is a really important one at Intuitive in particular, because we do have a lot of really smart specialists in different engineering fields, different regulatory fields, et cetera. And we look to them, we need their input, we need their backing in order to make some crucial project decisions. And so whether they have a high title or not, they can wield that power within the project. And so
it's a quick thing. Power and influence are not exactly the same. Power is to get you to do it. Influence is to get you to want to do it. And that's it's kind of a subtle difference for project managers. Typically in the PMO, we don't have direct formal power, but so we have to influence people to want to work on our projects when they have multiple other things that they need to be working on. So influence is a skill as well.
Engagement. So what are the types of engagement that we should be thinking about here?
So this is an interesting one. It's kind of one of those ones that soft skills were often done, behind the scenes almost. It was over a cigarette or over dinner, over a beer in the bar, and you're managing like what's going on here, why are we not getting any traction, or why are we not getting we're spinning tires or whatever we hear. And it's really about understanding resistance. And so we say there are 5 stages of engagement. We say there are people who are unaware, and for good reason. We haven't told them, we don't want them to know, there's unaware. And then there are people who are resistant. And so you may be unaware, and then when you are aware, you become a resistant. So you recognize you don't necessarily have to be resistant. But so there's groups that are unaware, maybe some resistant. Then there's another group that are called neutral. In young people's language, it would be called whatever. Like, I don't care about this project. You just told me about it. My heartbeat didn't change a beat. Like, it's got nothing to do with me. I'll turn up, I'll work. So we have unaware, resistant, neutral. Now we have another group that might be supporting. I want this. I can't wait to work on it. I'm behind you. Whatever you need, I'm there. Now, it's not my project, but I'm here to support you. I think it's a great idea. I see it's good. And then there's one last group, which is called leading. So leading is like the sponsor, and that's senior leadership, which says, this is where we're going. We might have to do a course correction, but we're the leaders and we make the decisions. So you need leaders, but then you recognize that not everybody it can be a leader. Obviously, we need to have supporters. But if you have a lot of resistance, it's going to be a very hard journey, right? The project could be good. It could have a good business case, but regulatory is not into it. Quality is not behind it. Engineering is too busy. And it's not that they're against the project. It's just they're against the timing of the project or the resourcing of the project, or you understand some detail.
Yes.
So yeah, just
Yeah,
very
well,
quickly.
and I like what you touched on there. I just want to highlight it for a second, which is resistance is often not like a blanket resistance. It's not enough just to say, oh, this stakeholder is resistant. Like that's like you're just scratching the surface. But what we want to ask ourselves is, what are they resistant to? And this is where we get into the soft skills. It's where we get into what I would say this is about curiosity as a project manager.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can tell you're resistant. I can see your pupils dilate. Your arms crossed, you lean away from me.
Yes.
You're communicating to me.
You step away, physically even step away.
You don't like what you're hearing. Now I need to get curious. What are you resistant to? Like I said, is it the timing? Is it the resource ask? Is it because you have too many things on your plate? Is it because you did a project like this before and you got burned? Like there's so many human elements to why we're resistant to a project. And as a project manager, it's our job to understand so that we can speak to that and address it. It's not enough to say, oh, this person's resistant. I just need to bulldoze them, or I need my sponsor to go bulldoze them. We need to be curious, and it's never enough just to label someone so simply.